Hey everyone, welcome back to Andie Talks Too Much. Sound only podcast. And yeah, that's what this is, I guess, because I'm basically only doing this because I'm too lazy to set up my own camera. Alright, so for this, whatever this is going to be, I'm mostly going to do this to try and tackle some of the myths that exist surrounding the trans community and trans people as a whole. And the reason why I'm doing this is because of my mom, who apparently falls in line with some of these beliefs. The thing is that a few days ago, she actually brought me a pamphlet for something that she found, and it had like an advertisement for a drag show, and I was like, "Mom, these two things are not the same thing." So yeah, Mom, this is dedicated to you, essentially. Alright, so the first one we'll be looking at is... It's a trap! Alright, so originally I was going to do this entirely from a Vox article, which covers a lot of the myths that surround the community, but this one seems a little bit more interesting because of something that I came across on Instagram. Now, I do know of a few people on there who often use this term to refer to themselves and say there's no harm in it. The problem is that there is a real big issue as to why this thing is a very touchy subject to the trans community, and we're going to get into that, and we're definitely going to get into that. Alright, so let's get to the article. Myth number 4, because it's actually myth number 4 in this article and not the one I was originally going to use. It's a trap. Trans women are just gay guys trying to attract straight dudes. See above about us not being gay guys. But this one goes a lot deeper, a lot nastier, and a lot more demeaning, and a lot more dangerous. Dangerous in that a great many trans women have lost their lives to sexual partners who felt they were tricked. And yeah, I think I brought this up in a previous video where I did mention sort of a little bit about the trans panic laws that exist. And that is an actual defense people do use. And here, let me actually show you what it actually says on Wikipedia, because this one actually sort of actually makes it a little bit more clear. It actually comes up it's actually under the umbrella term gay panic defense, but trans panic is a similar defense applied in cases of assault, manslaughter, and murder of a transgender individual with whom the assailant engaged in sexual relations unaware the victim is transgender until seeing them naked or further into or after sexual activity. And this is considering that it's used as a defense that the person was tricking them into having sex with them, and you get the idea. That's why this term is considered offensive to some in the trans community. And I do know of some people like I said, on Instagram who use it, and they are trans too. But the thing about it is that I don't feel like this term should be used because of the fact that it's used as a defense for murder, and it's not a good thing. It's like making light of the people who died at the hands of people who just use this as a defense and in some cases get away with it. What makes it worse is that according to the Movement Advancement Project, which does have a map of where these laws exist and where they can be used as a defense in court, it turns out that it's actually the majority of the United States have these laws in effect, including my own. The concept of deception is a tricky one, and it can be very complicated to unpack. The various ethical dimensions of disclosure and where a trans person's responsibility lies in terms of informing her partner. There's actually a link to a YouTube video by Zinnia Jones that, probably go check it out because she'll probably explain this a lot better than I can, because I'm not articulate at all. So, yeah, that's part of the reason why, as of making this video, I only have like 2 subs. And if a woman was attractive to you one moment and a repulsive lying whore the next, ooh, that's some language there. When all that has changed is that you now know a largely irrelevant detail of her history. The problem is with your perception, not her body. The problematic implication of us being traps are a bit too numerous to name them all. A few that come to mind are basic assumptions that we're really men, believing that your decisions all revolve around you. And we're doing this for your sake, not our own. Kind of like the early example about how men may interpret how a woman dresses. The issues of conflating gender expression with sexual motivation, the concept that femaleness and femininity are artifice and fake, etc. Something I always wondered about is like, who dresses 24/7 to attract somebody like that? It doesn't make sense to me. You're basically not dressing in a way that you're comfortable with, but you're doing it for the sole purpose of attracting somebody. Do people really just do that? I mean, I don't. I just dress how I feel comfortable in at the time. A hypothetical cis male sits on his couch and is absentmindedly flipping through a porn magazine. He comes across an ad for she-male porn. He wonders, why would anyone ever do that? Why would a man want to become a woman? That's crazy. Yeah, let's put aside the implicit misogyny there. We can talk about that some other time. And rather than think about it in terms of why a woman would want a female body and not a male one, he thinks about it in terms of why a man would want a female body. The conclusion he draws based upon the assumption that a man is fundamentally a sexual agent and woman is fundamentally a sexual object are that the she-male is doing it to get laid, to attract a man to him with his new hot, curvy sexual object of a body. Either that or, as in autogynephilia, doing it to have himself as his very own personal sex object. Never mind what happens to a trans woman's libido during HRT, never mind for very many trans women that period of time, exactly when the libido starts diminishing, happens to be when commitment often deepens and any remaining doubts and questions are resolved. Forget that. Forget that. It must be about sex, because that's all the female body's good for. Sex. Right? As the article Myth-Busting, Trans Women Aren't Tricking Cis Hetero Men into Sex also says, despite what cisgender societal expectations may be, trans women are not obligated to wear their trans status like a scarlet letter for a man's own sexual comfort. And despite what men may think, women, whether cis or trans, aren't or do not exist to make them comfortable. Often it is not even safe to disclose these situations anyway. And it sort of goes back to the issue I mentioned where about people using the term trap, because it kind of reinforces the idea that we have to do that when we don't. We don't have to do it to make people comfortable, because that's not right at our own expense, that we have to sort of agree to this standard that this is what we're supposed to be. We're supposed to tell them that so they can feel more comfortable. That's why I don't like the term, and that's why I don't like using that term to refer to anybody who's trans. Yeah, and this is something that like I said before, I come across a lot where people actually use the term to refer to themselves, and it's kind of not. I don't view it as I mean, you can do it if you want, but I just don't see it as a good idea, because it's kind of like having to declare it in order to avoid people considering you trying to trap them. It's kind of like feeding into this kind of thing that we have to tell people what we are beforehand before they try anything, when you shouldn't have to. I mean, how self-centered do you have to be just to think that literally everybody's trying to have sex with you? How absolutely self-centered and egotistical do you have to be in order to think that way, and to think that men are trying to trap you into having sex with them? Seriously. Nobody's trying to trap you. We are not traps. We are women. We are not trying to get you to have sex with us. That's not how this works. Why? I mean, honestly, why would anybody want to have sex with someone that's self-centered? But still, we're not trying to trap or trick anybody. I mean, that should be blatantly obvious. Just because you're attracted does not mean we're trying to trap you into anything. Your attraction is your own thing. I mean, if somebody's attracted to somebody and they're trans, it doesn't make them, gay. It doesn't change. It doesn't really work that way. So But the thing about it is that some people do view it this way, and trying to use the term trying to use the term, even if you're trying to reclaim it in this way, kind of comes off like you're trying to reinforce this notion and making them think it's all right to think of us as that way, all of us as that way. Because a lot of times, the reason why these myths exist is because people don't understand us at all and refuse to learn. So, yeah. That's myth number 1, busted. So with that, I'm in this, whatever this is here. So be sure to check out my other videos, with Prize Box Productions videos, or channels Prize Box Gaming and Prize Box Reacts. And also check out my main channel, The True Andie. Thanks for watching, and stay jamming, everyone.